The alarm screamed through Station Helix 9 like a dying animal, and I swear to the eternal void my 3 hearts nearly stopped beating at once. Gravity storm. Someone shouted over the intercom, Category 5. All personnel to emergency positions, now, now, now. I am Vekris, Senior Operations Officer of this floating death trap we call a research station, and in my 12 cycles of service, I have never heard such panic in Commander Zelthax's voice. The 4-armed Quellen was usually as calm as frozen methane, but right now he sounded like he was gargling glass shards. My scales rippled with fear as I sprinted down the corridor toward the central hub. Around me the station groaned, a deep metallic sound that vibrated through my bones. The gravity plating beneath my clawed feet flickered, and for one horrible moment I felt myself lift off the ground before slamming back down with twice the normal force. Oh, ancestors preserve us, I muttered, my tail whipping behind me for balance. This is how I die, crushed like a hatchling's toy. The central hub was pure bedlam when I arrived. Screens flashed red warnings. Scientists from 6 different species scrambled around like their shells were on fire. Doc Mornax, our Vaxillian physicist, was making a sound I can only describe as aggressive wheezing while trying to reroute power to the stabilizers. How bad is it? I shouted at him, grabbing his upper shoulder to get his attention. He turned his eye stalks toward me, both pupils dilated to pinpoints. How bad? How bad? Vicreus, this storm is registering at 0.9 on the Kelvin scale? 0.9. Do you understand what that means? I did, actually. It meant we were about to experience gravitational fluctuations strong enough to turn our insides into jelly. It meant the station's artificial gravity would fight against tidal forces that could tear us apart. It meant every person on board was probably going to die in the next 30 minutes. Where is Commander Zelthax? I demanded. Bridge. He is trying to angle the station to minimize exposure, but Mornax's voice trailed off as another violent shudder ran through Helix 9, but I do not think it will matter. The lights flickered. Somewhere in the lower decks, something exploded with a muffled boom. The artificial gravity stuttered again, this time making everyone in the hub float for 3 full seconds before we crashed back down. I heard someone's chat-in crack. Probably Engineer Thras. He always did have weak exoskeleton plates. Emergency Protocol 17, I barked, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Everyone secure yourselves to the support frames. Medical teams prepare for casualties. And someone get me a direct line to... Hey, Vekris. What's all the excitement about? I froze, turned slowly, and there, standing in the doorway with her hands in her pockets like she was waiting for public transport, was the human, Kira Voss, the single human assigned to our station as part of some interspecies cooperation program that I had voted against. Thank you very much. She was tall by human standards, with that odd brown skin they have and dark hair pulled back in what she called a ponytail. Her face bore that expression humans get when they are mildly curious about something but not particularly concerned. The excitement, I repeated, my translator chip nearly glitching from sheer disbelief. The excitement. Kira, we are about to be torn apart by a gravitational anomaly. Get to a safety harness now. She glanced at the red warning lights, looked at the panicking scientists, watched as the floor beneath us pulsed with another gravity fluctuation. Then she shrugged. She said, and I am not exaggerating when I say my brain momentarily shut down trying to process that response. Feels like home. What? Dr. Mornax's eyestalks actually crossed. What do you mean it feels like home? Kira walked. No, strolled into the hub like she was entering a leisure facility. Yeah, you know, the gravity going wonky, everything shaking, stuff falling over. Reminds me of earthquake season back in California. Earthquake season, I said slowly, tasting each syllable. You have a season for ground tremors. Well, technically it is all year round, but spring is when the big ones usually hit. She grabbed a handhold as the station lurched again, but her grip was casual, relaxed, like was holding a railing on a gentle amusement ride. One time when I was 14, we had a 7.2 that lasted almost 2 minutes. Now that was a ride. This, she gestured around at our impending doom, this is maybe a 6.5 tops. The entire hub had gone silent except for the alarms. Everyone was staring at the human. "She has lost her mind," Mornax whispered. The stress broke her. "I am standing right here," Kira said cheerfully. "And I can hear you. Also, I am fine. You guys, on the other hand, look like you are about to molt from fear." Commander Zelthax's voice crackled over the comms. "All stations, brace for impact. The storm's leading edge is about to hit us. Gravity fluctuations will increase by 300%. I repeat, 300%. May the void have mercy on us." 300%, I breathed. My scales went pale. "We are dead. We are all dead." Kira tilted her head. "Okay, seriously, you all need to calm down. 300% of what baseline, station normal. Because Earth's surface gravity is already stronger than your standard artificial setup, so..." The storm hit. Reality twisted. My inner ear, all three of them, screamed conflicting information. Up became down, became sideways, became inside out. I felt myself being pulled in 4 directions at once while simultaneously being compressed into a singularity. The station shrieked like a living thing. Metal groaned. Supports buckled. Someone was screaming, and I realized with distant horror that it was me. Through my spinning vision, I saw crew members lifted off the ground, some slammed into walls, others pressed flat against the floor. Dr. Mornax's eye stalks were stretched to painful angles. Engineer Thras's shell cracked further with an audible snap. And Kira, the human? She had dropped into a wide stance, knees bent, arms out for balance. Her face showed concentration. Sure, but not panic, not terror. She looked like, and I swear this is true, like she was riding a wave. "Woo!" she actually shouted over the chaos. "Okay, yeah, this is more like a 7.0. Respectable." The gravity reversed. Suddenly we were all on the ceiling, then the floor, then floating, then crushed. The cycle repeated every few seconds, each time with different intensity and direction. My breakfast, which had been a nice protein slurry, decided it no longer wanted to remain inside my body. "Vekris," Kira called out, "you need to bend your knees. Stop fighting it. Move with the shifts, not against them." I gasped between gravity pulses. "Do not have another pulse. Your insane crushing pressure, skeletal structure." "Fair point." She somehow managed to push off during a zero-gravity moment and grab a support beam. Then as gravity returned, she used her momentum to swing around it instead of being slammed into it. Different physiology. Okay. Anyone else having structural problems? A Plixian named Vera raised one trembling appendage. "My fluid sacs are rupturing." "Where is medical?" Kira demanded. "Deck 3. Mornax wheezed. "But we cannot reach it during the storm." Kira's eyes, those strange forward-facing predator eyes that humans have, narrowed in what I had learned to recognize as her planning expression. It was the same look she got when someone said something could not be done, and she decided to prove them wrong out of spite. "Watch my back," she said to no one in particular, and then she jumped. Not scrambled, not crawled, jumped, during a gravity storm. The absolute madness of it. She timed it perfectly. I will give her that. She launched herself during a low-gravity moment, sailed across the hub, grabbed another handhold during a sideways shift, used the momentum to swing toward the corridor, and disappeared from view just as gravity slammed back to triple strength. "She is going to die," Mornax stated with certainty. "Probably," I agreed, too nauseated and terrified to argue. The storm continued its assault for what felt like hours but was probably only 7 minutes. 7 minutes of gravitational chaos that turned my insides into soup and my outsides into a bruised mess. All around me, crew members groaned and whimpered. Some had passed out, others were still screaming. And then, just when I thought my organs would liquefy, the fluctuations began to decrease. The violent swings became slightly less violent. The crushing pressures eased from instantly fatal to merely extremely painful. "Benagord Tisadauzes." Ben Reynolds Cesarthax's voice returned to the comms, shaky but functional. "The leading edge has passed. We are now in the storm's calmer inner band. We have approximately 15 minutes before the trailing edge hits us with the same force. Damage reports. Now." I tried to stand, failed, tried again. Managed to get to my feet on the 3rd attempt, though my legs shook like a newborn grazer's. Central Hub reporting. I rasped into my comm. Multiple injuries. Structural damage to support beams 7 and 9. Dr. Mornax is functional. Engineer Thras has shell fractures. And the human is fine. Kira's voice came through slightly breathless but annoyingly chipper. Also, I have Vera here in medical. Her fluid sacs are stabilized. Dr. Yenna is treating her now. You, I said, not quite shouting, but definitely not using my indoor voice, are certifiably insane. So I have been told. I could hear the grin in her voice, multiple times, usually by my mother. Hey, Doc, Yenna says we have about 30 other injuries ranging from mild to moderate. Nothing fatal yet, but we need to prepare for the trailing edge. Commander Zelthax cut in. The trailing edge will be worse. Our shields are damaged. Stabilizers are at 40%. We cannot take another hit like that. Silence on the comms. The kind of silence that speaks volumes. The kind that says we are going to die and we all know it. Then Kira's voice again. Commander, do you have manual control of the station's rotation? Partial manual control, yes, but it will not help. We cannot outmaneuver a gravity storm. Not trying to outmaneuver it, Kira said, and I recognized that tone. That was her "I have a stupid idea that might work" tone. Trying to ride it? Explain, Zelthax demanded. Back home we have these boats. Surfboards. You use them to ride ocean waves. The trick is not to fight the wave's energy but to position yourself on it, use its power to move with it instead of being crushed by it. This is not an ocean wave, Mornax pointed out, finally pulling himself upright. This is a gravitational anomaly caused by the collision of two spatial distortion fields. The forces involved could tear apart a. Sure. Big forces, got it. But the principle is the same. Energy is energy. Right now you are trying to keep the station rigid and stable, which means you are fighting every gravitational shift. That is why we are taking so much damage. But if we can rotate the station to match the storm's fluctuations, angle ourselves to let the forces flow around us instead of through us. That is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard, I said flatly. And I once heard Engineer Thras suggest we use warp plasma as a beverage. It could work, a new voice chimed in. Vela, our navigation specialist. The Corvan was limping but conscious. It would be incredibly dangerous. We would need split-second timing. One mistake and we spin out of control, or worse, we position ourselves directly into a crushing force. But mathematically, theoretically. Yes, it could work. Commander Zelthax was quiet for a long moment. Then, you are all insane. The human is making us insane. This is what happens when you let predator species onto science stations. To be fair, Kira interjected, I think you were all a little insane before I got here. But that is beside the point. Do we try this or do we just wait here to be turned into paste? Another long pause. I could practically hear Zelthax's forearms rubbing his forehead in exasperation. Fine, he said at last. Void, take us all. Kira, get to the bridge. Grilla, prepare the rotation calculations. Vekris, I need you to coordinate all departments. Everyone else, secure everything that is not already secured, and pray to whatever deities you believe in, because we are about to do something magnificently stupid. I looked at Mornax, he looked at me, we both looked at Engineer Thras, who was being bandaged by a medical team. I voted against the human exchange program, I said again. We all did, Mornax replied. We were outvoted by the council, who thought it would be educational. Educational. I started laughing, a slightly hysterical sound. Well, I am certainly learning things, like how to die in the stupidest way possible. The next 12 minutes were a blur of frantic preparation. Every department checked in with damage reports and readiness status. The engineering teams performed miracles, rerouting power to the rotational thrusters and stabilizing what they could of our failing systems. Medical prepared for casualties. Science teams secured their equipment or, in many cases, mourned what was already destroyed. And on the bridge, Kira stood next to Commander Zelthax and Prella, staring at the sensor displays showing the approaching trailing edge of the gravity storm. I was there too, because apparently I had been designated the official coordinator of this madness. Also because I wanted to make sure someone responsible was present when we all died. Trailing edge approaching, Prella announced, her tentacles flying over her console. Impact in 5 minutes. The force readings are 30% higher than the leading edge. Fantastic, Zeltax muttered. 30% more likely to die.
Kira.
Are you certain about this plan? The human was studying the sensor data with intense focus. No, not even a little bit, but I am certain that doing nothing will definitely kill us. This way we have maybe a 20% chance. 20%? I screeched. That is your confidence level. 20%? She shrugged again. That infuriating human gesture. Better than 0%. Also, I might be underselling it. Could be as high as 35%. Oh well, in that case, I said, my sarcasm reaching levels that should not be physically possible, I feel much better. You are being sarcastic, Kira observed. But honestly, you should feel better. Because the alternative is accepting certain death. And I refuse to do that. One thing about humans, we are really stubborn about not dying. Stubborn, Mornak said from his station where he was monitoring structural integrity, or delusional. Why not both? Kira flashed that teeth-baring expression humans call a smile. It still looked vaguely threatening to me, but I had learned it was meant to be friendly. Mostly. 3 minutes to impact, Prella said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her tentacles. Commander, I have calculated the optimal rotation patterns. They are programmed into the helm, but I must warn you, the timing windows are incredibly narrow. We are talking microsecond precision. Can our systems handle that? Zeltax asked. No, she said simply, but I can. I will need to do it manually. 2 pairs of eyes are better than 1, Kira said, moving to stand beside Prella. Or in your case 2 pairs plus 1 more pair. I can help with the timing calls. Prella's eye spots regarded the human with something that might have been respect. You understand what you are volunteering for. If we miscalculate, even by a fraction of a second, the rotational forces combined with the gravitational fluctuations could pulverize us instantly. Yeah, Kira said softly. I get it. But hey, I did not come all the way out to this sector of space just to die quietly. Let's make this interesting. 2 minutes, I announced. My voice somehow steady despite my 3 hearts trying to beat their way out of my chest. All stations report ready. The bridge fell silent, except for the soft hum of systems and the occasional beep of sensors. Through the forward viewport, we could see nothing unusual, just the black of space and the distant stars. But the sensors told a different story. They showed a wall of gravitational chaos approaching us at incomprehensible speeds, a storm of warped space-time that would hit us like an angry god's fist. 1 minute, Prilla said, beginning rotation sequence. The station shuddered as the thrusters fired. We began to spin, slowly at first, then faster. The artificial gravity inside compensated, but I could feel the motion in my bones. We were a leaf caught in a cosmic hurricane, and we were about to try surfing it. 30 seconds, Kira called out, her eyes locked on her console. I am seeing the first fluctuations. Small ones. They are the precursors to the main event. Confirmed, Prella said. Adjusting rotation. Commander, I need full thruster authority. You have it. Do not get us killed, Prella. I will try my best. Sir. 15 seconds, I said, and I am proud to report my voice only cracked a little. May the eternal void embrace us. 10 seconds, Kira said. 9, 8. The sensors screamed warnings, red lights flashed, every system on the bridge reported imminent catastrophic failure. 7, 6, 5. I gripped my console hard enough to dent the metal. Beside me, Mornax's eye stalks had retracted almost completely into his head. Commander Zelthax's forearms were braced against his chair. 4, 3, 2. Kira glanced at me, just for a moment, and I swear that insane human winked. 1. Hold on to your scales, Vekris. Here we go. The trailing edge of the gravity storm hit Station Helix 9 with the force of a collapsing star, and the universe went completely, utterly mad. The first thing that happened was my brain decided it no longer wanted to communicate with the rest of my body. The second thing was my body decided it did not particularly care and started screaming anyway. Gravity went sideways, then inverted, then multiplied, then vanished entirely, all within the span of 2 heartbeats. The station spun, and I mean truly spun, like a toy thrown by an angry child. Through the viewport, stars became streaks of light, then blurs, then they just gave up trying to make sense. But here is the thing that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. We were not dead yet. Rotation at 47 degrees. Prella shouted, her tentacles a blur across her controls, gravitational shear coming from Vector 9-3 Alpha. Compensating. Kira's hands moved faster than I thought human appendages could move. Rolling station 15 degrees port. Pitching up 7. The station obeyed. The impossible, beautiful, terrifying motion actually worked. As the gravitational wave tried to crush us from one direction, we angled ourselves, letting the force slide along our hull instead of through it. It was like watching someone dodge a punch in slow motion, except we were a massive space station, and the punch was physics itself trying to murder us. Another surge, bigger one, coming in hot, Kira called out. Her voice was steady, focused. But I detected something else there. Excitement. The human was actually enjoying this. Prella, we need a hard rotation. 90 degrees on my mark. 3, 2, mark. The thrusters fired with such force that my teeth rattled. The station flipped, and this time I did scream, because every instinct I possessed said we were tumbling out of control. But no, we were not. We were dancing. The station was performing a ballet with gravitational forces that should have atomized us, and somehow, impossibly, we were staying intact. Hull stress at 89%. Mornax yelled from his console, "We cannot sustain this." "We do not have to sustain it for long," Prella replied, never taking her eye spots off her displays. "The trailing edge is passing through us. Another 40 seconds, and we will be clear." 40 seconds. That was an eternity when reality was trying to turn you inside out. Another massive gravitational spike hit us, and this time I felt something in the station give way. A support beam somewhere in the lower decks probably. The hull groaned, a deep bass note that resonated in my bones. Warning klaxons added their voices to the symphony of near death. "Left stabilizer is gone," someone from engineering reported over the comms. "We are venting atmosphere from Deck 5, Section 12. Seal it." Commander Zelthax barked. "Emergency bulkheads. Now." "Already done, sir," came the response, "but we have lost rotational control on that side. Compensation thrusters are barely holding." Kira's eyes narrowed. She studied her console for maybe 2 seconds, which felt like an hour, then spoke with absolute confidence. "Prella, kill the left side thrusters entirely. We are going to use the imbalance." "Use it?" Prella's tentacles actually froze mid-movement. "Use an imbalance? During a gravity storm? Are you completely unhinged?" "Probably, yeah, but think about it. If we try to compensate for the imbalance, we are fighting against both the storm and our damaged systems. But if we let the imbalance happen, we can use it to add spin, make our movements sharper, more responsive. That is," Prella said slowly, "either brilliant or suicidal." "Could be both," Kira admitted, "but we are out of good options. So let us try the crazy one. On my mark, cut left thrusters and give me full power to the right. We will spiral into the next gravitational wave instead of trying to roll through it." "Commander," Prella looked at Zelthax, seeking permission to commit what might be our final mistake. Zelthax's forearms gripped his chair so tightly I heard the metal creak. "Do it? At this point, what is one more insane gamble?" "That is the spirit," Kira said, and I swear she was grinning. Cutting left thrusters in 3, 2, 1. Now! The station lurched hard to starboard. We were spinning now, really spinning, in a tight corkscrew pattern that made my stomach try to escape through my mouth. The viewport showed stars whirling in dizzying circles. Every instrument screamed warnings. This was it. This was how we died, spinning like a broken toy into the void. Except Kira timed our spiral perfectly. As the next gravitational wave hit us, we were already rotating into it, moving with its force rather than against it. The station shuddered, creaked, protested every law of physics and engineering, but it held. The wave passed over us, around us, through us, and we rode it like Kira had said, like those humans on their boards riding waves of water. Hull stress decreasing. Mornax sounded shocked. 82%. 79. It is working. By the eternal void, it is actually working. 20 seconds to clear, Prella announced, And for the first time since this nightmare began, I heard hope in her voice. 15. 10. Almost there, Kira murmured, her focus absolute. Come on, baby. Hold together just a little longer. I was not sure if she was talking to the station or to us, or to the universe itself. Maybe all three. Maybe it did not matter, because as the final seconds ticked down, as we spun and twisted, and somehow survived, I realized something profound. Humans were absolutely, completely, utterly out of their minds. And right now, that was exactly what we needed. 5 seconds, Prella counted down. 4, 3, 2, 1. The gravitational fluctuations stopped. Not gradually, not slowly fading away. They just stopped, like someone had flipped a switch. The station continued spinning for a few more rotations, but Prella was already firing the thrusters in precise bursts, leading off our momentum. Within 30 seconds we were stable again. Still, floating in space like nothing had happened. The bridge was silent except for the sound of various crew members breathing heavily, or in Mornax's case, making that wheezing sound again. Status report, Commander Zelthax said quietly. All stations. The reports came in one by one. Damage. Yes. Injuries. Several. But casualties. 0. Not a single death. Against a Category 5 gravity storm that should have crumpled us like paper, we had survived with 0 deaths. Unbelievable, Mornax whispered. We should all be dead. But we are not. Kira finally stepped back from her console, rolling her shoulders like she had just finished a light workout instead of navigating through cosmic doom. Nice flying, Prella. Those calculations were perfect. Prella's tentacles were trembling, but she managed to form them into what I recognized as her species' gesture of respect. You predicted the patterns. I simply executed your instructions. That was the most terrifying and exhilarating experience of my entire life, and I am not certain how I feel about that. Welcome to being human adjacent, Kira said with a laugh. The terror and exhilaration come standard. The therapy bills are extra. Commander Zelthax rose from his chair, all 4 arms steady despite what we had just endured. He approached Kira slowly, and I tensed, uncertain what was about to happen. In my experience, commanders did not take well to subordinates who completely disregarded safety protocols, even if those disregards saved everyone's lives. But Zelthax simply placed one hand on Kira's shoulder. You saved this station, you saved all of us. I do not know whether to commend you or have you evaluated for psychological instability. Again, Kira said, that smile spreading across her face. Could be both. Indeed. Zelthax's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Regardless, you have my gratitude. Our gratitude. Well done, Kira Voss. The rest of us on the bridge added our own thanks. Even Mornax, who had spent the last 3 months complaining about humans and their reckless nature, bobbed his eye stalks in acknowledgement. Just doing my job, Kira said, but I could tell she was pleased. Besides, you all did the hard part. I just called out some numbers. Some numbers, I repeated, my sarcasm returning now that we were not actively dying. Yes, just some numbers. The way a surgeon just makes some cuts or an artist just applies some colors. Truly, your modesty knows no bounds. She laughed at that, a genuine sound that somehow made the bridge feel less oppressive despite the damage around us. Okay, fine, I was awesome. Happy. Ecstatic. I said dryly, now if you will excuse me, I need to go organize repair teams, file approximately 70 incident reports, and possibly sob quietly in a storage closet. I will join you for that last part, Mornax volunteered. My eye stalks may never recover from the stress. The next several hours were a blur of controlled chaos. Repair crews swarmed through the station, patching hull breaches, replacing blown systems, and generally trying to put Helix 9 back together. Medical teams treated injuries ranging from broken bones to ruptured fluid sacs to severe cases of motion sickness. Engineering performed miracles with spare parts and creative profanity. I coordinated it all from the central hub, which was now only partially functional. Half the displays were cracked or dead. 2 of the main support beams showed stress fractures that made my scales itch just looking at them. But we were alive, and that was more than I had expected 6 hours ago. Kira, of course, was everywhere. helping to move equipment here, offering suggestions there, somehow managing to lift objects that should have required 3 crew members because of her ridiculous human strength. She worked for 4 straight hours without rest, until I finally had to order her to the mess hall for food and water. "I am fine," she protested as I physically pushed her toward the corridor. "You are about to collapse," I countered. "I have seen exhaustion before, Kira. You need sustenance and rest." "That is an order from a senior officer. Since when do you pull rank on me?" "Since you saved all of our lives and I refused to let you die of something as stupid as skipping meals. Now go. Eat." "That is not a request." She went, grumbling but compliant, and I returned to my coordination duties. 2 hours later, I found her in the observation lounge. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, staring out at the stars through the large viewport. A half-eaten meal sat beside her, along with what looked like 3 empty drink containers. "You know we have chairs," I said, settling myself into one to prove the point. "Chairs are overrated," she replied without looking away from the view. "Besides, this reminds me of home. Used to sit like this on my apartment floor back in Seattle, watching the city lights." "Seattle? That is one of your human cities." "Yes? Yep, rainy, gray, full of coffee shops, and people who apologize for existing. I loved it." She finally turned to look at me, and I was surprised to see genuine emotion in her eyes. Not the excitement or confidence from earlier. Something softer. "Do you ever miss your homeworld, Vikress?" I considered the question. Every day, the thermal pools, the singing crystals in the deep caverns, the way the 3 moons rise in sequence during festival season. I paused. "But I chose this life, exploration, research, discovery. One cannot have both roots and wings. Humans have a saying about that. Home is where the heart is," which I always thought was a bit sappy, but maybe there is truth in it. She gestured around at the damaged station. "I have been here for 4 months. You all made it pretty clear you did not want a human on board. Too aggressive, too reckless, too loud, too everything. And you were probably right." "But," I prompted, sensing there was more. "But today, when that storm hit, my first thought was not about saving myself. It was about saving all of you. This crew, this station, because somewhere between the awkward first meetings and the uncomfortable meal times and the 1,000 little moments of working together, you all became my people. This became my place." Funny how that happens. I was quiet for a moment, processing that. Then I said, "You know, I did vote against the human exchange program. You mentioned that several times, actually." "Yes. Well, I was wrong." She blinked, clearly surprised. "Wow. Did Vikress just admit to being wrong? Should I record this for posterity?" "Do not push your luck," I warned, but there was no heat in it. "I was wrong because I judged your entire species based on reports and statistics and second-hand stories. I thought humans were reckless danger seekers with no sense of self-preservation, and I was partially correct. You are reckless. You do seek danger. Your self-preservation instincts are clearly malfunctioning." "Gee, thanks. However," I continued, "I failed to understand that those traits, when properly applied, can save lives. Your willingness to take risks, to try impossible things, to refuse to accept certain doom. Today those qualities kept 247 beings alive, including this ungrateful lizard, who spent 3 months complaining about your presence." Kira smiled, and this time it was not the confident grin or the excited smirk. It was something warm and genuine. "You are not a lizard. You are clearly some kind of advanced reptilian species, with excellent scales and a wonderful sense of sarcasm. Flattery will not make me stop filing my reports about your multiple safety violations. Worth a try." She stretched, her joints making small popping sounds that I found mildly disturbing. "So what happens now? Does the station get scrapped? Do we all get reassigned?" "Unknown. Commander Zilthax is compiling a full report for the Council. Given the extent of the damage, they may decide to decommission Helix 9, or they may choose to rebuild it. Politics and bureaucracy will decide our fate, as always." "Sounds about right. Every species has bureaucracy. It is like the universal constant nobody wants but everyone has." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars. Then Kira spoke again, her voice thoughtful. "You know what I realized during the storm? when we were spinning and I thought maybe we actually were going to die. What? I realized that Earth prepared me for this. Not just the earthquakes, though those helped, but everything about growing up on a planet that is actively trying to kill you. The weather systems, the tectonics, the wildlife, even the plants are dangerous, some of them, and humans adapted to all of it. We learned to read patterns in chaos, to find stability in constant change, to survive conditions that should have wiped us out a dozen times over. She turned to face me fully. That is why we seem crazy to other species. Because we come from a world that taught us you can either learn to dance with danger or you can die. So we learned to dance. Yeah, sometimes we dance when we should be running, or we dance too close to the edge, or we try to teach the danger to dance with us. But that is just how we are built. That, I said slowly, is actually a disturbing amount of sense. I hate that it makes sense. She laughed. Welcome to understanding humans. It is confusing and contradictory, and you will never be completely comfortable with it. Wonderful. I look forward to years of continued confusion. Years, huh? So you are saying you want me to stick around? I met her strange forward-facing eyes with my own. Despite my better judgment against all logic and reason, and contradicting everything I said 4 months ago, yes, I want you to stick around. Someone needs to keep us from being too safe and boring. Too safe and boring, she repeated. That is my new official job description, Kira Voss, preventer of excessive safety and boredom. I will add it to your file. The next few days were a whirlwind of repairs, reports, and recovery. The Council reviewed Commander Zelthax's documentation, reviewed the sensor logs, and reviewed approximately 8,000 pages of technical data. Then they made their decision. Station Helix 9 would be rebuilt and upgraded. Furthermore, the human exchange program would be expanded, and most significantly, they wanted Kira to help develop new emergency response protocols based on her actions during the gravity storm. They want me to teach other stations how to surf cosmic disasters, Kira said, reading the official notice with bemusement. That is either a great honor or a terrible mistake. Definitely both, I assured her. Congratulations on your promotion to official bad influence. Best promotion ever. Commander Zelthax called a station-wide assembly once the major repairs were complete. All 247 crew members gathered in the main hangar, which was the only space large enough to hold everyone. The four-armed Quellan stood on a raised platform, his presence commanding attention. 3 weeks ago, he began, his voice carrying across the hangar, we faced certain death. A Category 5 gravity storm should have destroyed this station and killed everyone on board. By all calculations, by all previous data, by all reasonable expectations, we should not be standing here today. He paused, letting that sink in. But we are here. We survived. Not through luck, not through accident, but through skill, courage, and the willingness of one individual to suggest something so audacious, so unconventional, that it actually worked. Zelthax gestured toward Kira, who was standing in the front row trying to look small and failing because humans are terrible at being inconspicuous. Kira Voss, step forward. She did, looking uncomfortable with the attention. I felt a small amount of satisfaction at seeing the confident human finally rattled by something. For exceptional bravery and innovative thinking in the face of imminent danger, Zelthax continued, and for saving the lives of every being on this station, I hereby award you the Star of Valor, the highest commendation our research division can bestow. He placed a small crystalline medal around her neck. The crew erupted in applause, clicking, chirping, and otherwise expressing approval in a dozen different species-specific ways. Kira's face did that thing human faces do when they are embarrassed, turning a darker shade. Thank you, sir, she said quietly. But I did not do it alone. Prella's calculations, Lacrice's coordination, the entire crew working together. That is what saved us. True, Zelthax agreed. Which is why everyone here is receiving commendations as well. But you, Kira Voss, you gave us the plan. You gave us hope when we had none. And for that you have earned the gratitude of everyone on Helix 9. More applause, more approval. I found myself joining in, my tail swishing with genuine pleasure at seeing Kira recognized for her actions. After the assembly, after the celebrations and the toasts and the general chaos of a crew that had faced death and won, I found Kira back in the observation lounge. Same spot on the floor, Same view of the stars. So, I said, settling into my usual chair. How does it feel to be a hero? Weird, she admitted. I just did what needed doing. What anyone would have done. No. What anyone could have done, maybe. But only you actually did it. There is a difference. She considered that, I suppose. Still feels weird, though. We sat in silence again, but it was different now. More comfortable. The silence of friendship rather than mere acquaintance. Vekris? She said after a while. Yes. Thanks for pushing me to eat earlier. I probably would have collapsed if you had not. Yes, you would have. You humans are terrible at self-care. Fair point. Another pause. Also, thanks for giving me a chance. I know I am loud and impulsive and I make you nervous. You make everyone nervous. It is one of your most consistent traits. She laughed. True. But you still gave me a chance. That means something. I thought about that. About my initial resistance to having a human on board. About how wrong my assumptions had been about how this loud, impulsive, gravity-surfing human had somehow become one of the crew members I trusted most. Well, I said finally, you grew on me, like a fungus. Annoying at first, but eventually tolerable and occasionally useful. Did you just compare me to a fungus? I did. How does it feel? Honestly, pretty good. Fungera resilient and adaptable, and they show up in unexpected places. I will take it. Of course you will. You are incapable of taking offense. Not true. Call me Canadian and I will fight you. I had no idea what a Canadian was, but I decided not to ask. With humans, it was often better not to know. The stars continued their eternal dance outside the viewport. Station Helix 9 floated in the void, damaged but intact, scarred but surviving. Inside, 247 beings from a dozen species went about their lives, bound together by shared experience and the knowledge that they had faced the impossible and won. And in the observation lounge, a cynical reptilian officer and an overly optimistic human sat in comfortable silence, proof that the universe was stranger and more wonderful than anyone could predict. Hey, Vekris, Kara said eventually. Yes? Next time there is a cosmic disaster, maybe we should just evacuate like normal people. I looked at her. She looked at me. We both started laughing. Not a chance, I said. Where would be the fun in that? Exactly, she agreed. Besides, what is life without a little gravity-defying insanity? Death. Probably. Quick, painless, sensible death. Overrated. Completely overrated, I agreed. And somewhere in the cosmos, another storm was probably brewing. Another disaster was waiting to happen. Another impossible situation would arise. But Station Helix 9 had something special now. Something that most research outposts lacked. We had a human, and apparently that made all the difference.